personal Donald Trump. It ain't personal. It's his anti-black policies. You feel me? So why is it always framed as personal animus when the critique is in black? See, you can miss me with that mess. Black communities have fought too hard and for too long to get representation at the table. That fight doesn't end once someone wins an election and becomes president of the country, or for that matter, the city council. If anything, it raises the stakes. Representation without results is not the goal. Representation that delivers, now that's the goal. So, in the future, when we talk about a policy failure, let's talk about the policy. Let's keep our eyes on the actual record, the votes, the budgets, the promises, the perennially missed deadlines, the outcomes in people's daily lives. Because the moment we start treating accountability as disloyalty, we lose the ability to ask for better from anyone. We must never surrender our agency to be outraged when our leaders underperform. Our communities deserve leaders who welcome scrutiny, not ones who hide behind identity to avoid it. Now, Let me put my hard hat on, go back outside, and see if these procrastination Crenshaw construction crews have shown up yet. I'm saving space for grace, but if these trucks don't show up soon, well, you already know. With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Thought-provoking Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and therefore our conversation with Atiba and with Sonny Melk. But just before I make our introductions into the first hour, I want to offer an editorial called The Jackson Doctrine and the Road Back from War. In 1988, at the Beverly Hilton Hotel there in Los Angeles, the Reverend Jesse Jackson stood before the country and did something American politicians rarely do. He didn't just criticize a war. He laid out a doctrine for how a great nation ought conduct itself in the world. He called it plainly the Jackson Doctrine. There were 4 pillars: support for international law, support for self-determination, support for human rights, and support for international economic justice. No slogans, a test, a way to judge any president of any party on any war. This afternoon, that test is not academic, it's the news. As of this week, the United States is not just backing a war, it's fighting one. American and Israeli strikes killed Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, in an attack in February. His funeral procession is still moving through Tehran, Najaf, and Karbala as we speak. A ceasefire signed by President Trump himself at Versailles in June collapsed this week. On Tuesday, the president declared the deal with Iran over. On Wednesday, U.S. forces struck Iran again, this time threatening Karg Island, the artillery through which most of Iran's oil moves to the world. And Vice President Vance says there will be no accommodation on the Strait of Hormuz. Full stop. Ask the first Jackson question. Is this international law? A war that began with the assassination of a head of state that has now cost American taxpayers more than $100 billion, that threatens to seize a nation's oil infrastructure outright, that is not the language of law. That is the language of conquest. Reverend Jackson didn't oppose every use of force. He opposed force substituting for diplomacy, force as the first resort instead of the last. Ask the second question, self-determination. Iran's government has been brutal to its own people. We should say that plainly. Tehran massacred its own citizens during the protest earlier this year, but the Jackson Doctrine never confused a people with their regime. Regime change imposed from the outside at the barrel of a gun has never once in modern Middle East politics produced the self-determination it promised. Iraq didn't get it. Libya didn't get it. There's no reason to believe an Iran remade by American and Israeli airstrikes will get it either. Ask the third question. Human rights. Look at the Gaza. More than 2,500 members of Gaza's own police force have been reportedly killed in this war, and what's left is a security vacuum where clan mediators now do the work of courts and the work that police used to do. That's not a side effect of this conflict. In Jackson's framework, that is the conflict. The human cost is the measure, not a footnote to it. And ask the fourth question. Economic justice. A 5% spike in oil prices the moment the ceasefire broke. Aviation authorities telling airlines to avoid Iranian, Iraqi, and Lebanese airspace through the end of August. Fertilizer, shipping, tourism, all of it destabilized. And the bill, as always, does not land on the American people who made the decisions. It lands on working families here and across the region who never asked for any of this. Now, the fair rebuttal deserves to be heard. The administration and its allies argue that Iran's nuclear and missile program posed a genuine threat, that Hezbollah and the Houthis were not innocent bystanders, and that a decisive strike now prevents a far bloodier war later. This is the real argument made by people who are not cynics, but history will judge whether or not they are right. But Jesse Jackson's answer to that argument 40 years ago was this: guided missiles and misguided leaders are still misguided. Power without law is not strength, it's just power. A foreign policy built on international law, self-determination, human rights, and shared prosperity isn't naive. It is the only kind of policy that has ever actually held. The Reverend used to end his speeches with a phrase that outlived his campaigns: keep hope alive. This afternoon, with a ceasefire in ruins and a funeral procession still crossing 3 countries, that's not a comfortable phrase, it's a demand. Keep it alive by insisting our government meet its own stated standard, not just its stated enemy. I'm Jesse Jackson. You're listening to Conversations with Atiba on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. In a moment, our very special guest will be introduced, and we're going to have a conversation about your pocketbook. Make sure you have a pen and a piece of paper so you can follow the notes from Ataya, who's going to share with us how and what we should be doing with our money in this environment. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's sharp. She's fearless. I don't know what they told you, but if they told you that cutting me off is how it's going to get clicks, stop it now. She's that girl, and she's bringing all of that to your radio this summer. Amanda Seales is here. I am Amanda Seales. Comedian, artist, actress, activist, truth teller. The woman who never bites her tongue is coming to KBLA Talk 1580. And baby, the conversations are about to be unmatched. Every Friday, she's going to be lit noon to 2 p.m. and back again 4 to 6 p.m. starting Friday, July 17th. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. Amanda Seales, keeping it real, keeping it raw, and keeping it rooted. Politics, pop culture, Black excellence, the stuff they don't want us talking about. Amanda's talking about all of it. You keep interrupting me when I'm talking, and you don't want to hear the point that I'm going to make. And yet you want me to respect your point. And that's not how a debate works. This is not your average radio show. This is a Seales Summer. Fridays, noon to 2, 4 to 6. Starting Friday, July 17th. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. Don't just listen. Tune in. I'm coming!
I love days like these at the pool, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. I'm ready to make a splash with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza. Skyrizi is a prescription-only injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. At 4 months, most people saw 90% clearer skin when measured from head to toe, and many were even 100% plaque-free. People also saw significant improvement in psoriasis symptoms of pain, redness, itching, and burning.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Now there's nothing on my skin, thanks to Skyrizi, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZI to learn more.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA.
Welcome to the J Lunch Club. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. It's Thought-Provoking Thursdays with Atiba, former Deputy Executive Director for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. He's a Strategic Alliance Consultant and President of Party Politics US. Atiba, welcome forward to the show.
Chelsea, it's great to be here.
And I can't thank you enough for our very special guest in this hour. Afia Ricks has over 2 decades of experience in the financial services industry. She was consistently the #1 investment product wholesaler and raised over $2 billion in assets combined while working at 2 different Fortune 500 companies. During her time on Wall Street, she also worked with various financial companies and their financial advisors as mutual fund, ETF, unit trust, and annuity wholesaler. Afia has her own client base while licensing and training individuals and couples to educate and serve via financial literacy programming. Afia, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Wow, thank you so much. That's me. Okay, thank you for
So
having me.
I'm so glad you're here.
You ever had someone introduce you and you're like, that's me?
Welcome to the show. Atiba?
Thank you.
Hey, so Jesse, let me kind of catch everyone up. So last week here in Miami, there was an incredible program that was put on with legends of sports. Alex Rodriguez spoke, talked about business. It was a very well-curated event. And at that event, I got a chance to meet Afia, and then we got a chance to talk. And the things that we talked about, I said to her, I've got to have you on the show because we talk here every Thursday. And I know, Jesse, you're talking about this stuff daily about things that are impacting our communities. And one of the things that comes to mind as I'm introduce you, Afia, is a quote from The Godfather, from Tony Montana, when he said, first, in this country, you got to get the money first.
Whoa. Tony Montana was Scarface.
I'm sorry. That's what I meant, Scarface. Thank you for correcting me. Thank you so much for correcting me.
You're talking Michael Corleone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, but in Scarface, Tony Montana said, in this country, you got to make the money first. Then when you get the money, you get the power. And often when we're talking in politics, we're talking about getting power. But also, we are looking at, how are we building wealth? And we know that we've been stagnated. We've been bamboozled. We've had walls and everything that have been put around us since slavery and after. And just the conversation that I had with Afia was just really impactful. So Afia, first off, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you, Atiba. We have been having some great conversations. I will say that for sure.
So one of the things, Jesse, that we've been talking about and we want to kind of have as a theme today is the wealth gap begins with the knowledge gap. And there's so many things that we don't necessarily do. I know some of us talk about stacking dollars, but Afia, let me kind of just get into with you, bring you in terms of what are some of your thoughts in terms of what are some of the challenges that are presented to us every day and to our young people as they're moving through and matriculating through school? What are some of the things that they're not necessarily learning about wealth in schools, as well as may not be getting at home?
Right. It's interesting because now I see that a lot of schools are looking at creating programs for financial literacy. Some I love, some I don't. But I just know growing up on the south side of Chicago, there was no education on money. And even by the time I got to high school, we didn't get into this, but I went to Kenwood for a year. And then I ended up going to Lake Forest Academy. A gentleman we ran track with, he got shot and killed. There was a lot of stuff just going on in the Chicago public school system that I told my mom, I'd like to escape if you want me to go to college. So I ended up going to Lake Forest Academy, which is a boarding school and one of the highest net worth communities in the United States. And what I learned there was a lot of the kids there, there's not a large Black population there, but a lot of the children there, their parents were multimillionaires. And so I'm nosy, I ask questions, and they would talk about how at the dinner table, their families would have conversations about, the family money and the stock market. And it was just interesting to me because I was like, well, wow, first of all, you guys had a dinner table and we did too, but we just didn't use it for dinners because I don't know how many times we were together for dinner. My mom was a professor at Loop, which became Harold Washington. Her hours were interesting. And they throw out the word latchkey kids, but we all knew how to survive outside of the house for the day. So I can't tell you how many times our family actually had dinner together, and let alone my mom's even admitted she wouldn't have even known how to start that conversation because she wasn't taught about money. Where'd you learn about money is my question, actually.
What does the conversation in the Black community, given our median standard of income, what does that sound like compared to the conversation that you heard they were having in Lake Forest?
So common phrases lead you to think that all rich people are evil. And I always say, man, if you think that rich people are bad people, then you're speaking actually out into existence, because we're not bad people, right? I don't think anybody thinks they're a bad person. So you're already pushing the energy of money coming in your direction if you're saying money's evil. But then also when you get it, right? When I first started making money on Wall Street, and I was making really good money, but you kind of start saying, man, am I still a good person? So that's one thing. Money is the root of all evil, right? We've all heard that. And then for most parents, when I talk to them about it, there's almost like a guilt in the Black household that they didn't have that conversation. We talk about religion, we talk about sex ed, we talk about a lot of things, but there's not a lot of conversation about money. And if there is, a lot of my generation, it was conversations with the grandparents, and their conversation was put money in the bank and just let it sit there. And I know we're going to get to this part of the conversation, but the question I would ask everybody is, what rate is your bank giving? And whatever rate that is, it 100% is not keeping up with inflation. So I'm not saying don't put your money in the bank, but it's not even close to 3-4%, which is average inflation. So your spending power with money is slowly deteriorating with that type of advice. And our grandparents used to get double-digit returns on their money. That just doesn't exist anymore at the bank.
So forgive me, I want to go back a little bit, because what you just said just kind of made me start thinking about my own childhood. And my family, we did sit around the table. In fact, whenever my father came home from work, everything stopped. Even if we were playing on the street, we had to come in and sit at the table and have dinner. But we didn't necessarily have these type of conversations. But what I do recall is I remember watching my parents sitting around the checkbook. You know, I didn't know this until later, but they were balancing the checkbook, making sure that they had, were accounting for what each other had spent out of their joint checking account. Again, I'm assuming though they're here. What I do also remember is that the first time I really came to understand something about the stock market was in high school and going to a business class. And then in the business class, we took a trip to a stockbroker, and the stockbroker explained to us how Wall Street worked, and then asked us, if you were going to pick a stock, which one would you pick? We didn't know. So I took my finger, slid it down, and I ended up on Lehman Brothers of all things. But I kept watching, and we put some money in, and we kept watching and what have you. So that was my first introduction into the stock market. But the other thing that comes to mind, Afia, is the first time at 14 years old, thanks to Mayor Marion Barry's Summer Youth Employment Program, I had a job where I worked 4 hours a week. For 4 hours a day. And I remember when I got my first check. And I remember asking my mother, why has so much money been taken out of my check? Because what I was multiplying was how much I was getting paid an hour. And that's how much money I expected to get. So when you take all those kind of things into consideration, and then we start talking to someone about, hey, you can put X amount of money aside for savings. You can put X amount of money in terms of investment. But when someone's getting their check and then they're recognizing wait, I'm not making nearly as much money as I thought because so much is being taken away. When you look at that, how do you teach someone as they're coming up how to, as in our conversations, you live within your means or below your means so that you can be able to create a better future for yourself?
First of all, thank you to whatever teacher that was that took you to the stockbroker and had you even look at anything. The second thing I'll say is that your parents had the checkbook out, but I want to ask you both, did your parents ever tell you how much money they made?
No, they didn't. And it was like I remember asking my father how much he made, and to me it came across that it's none of your business.
It was grounds in some households for a spanking, dare I say, or we can't talk about spankings anymore. Okay, got it. But that was the conversation I had with my mother when I first got on Wall Street, because my first job in New York, I got paid $25,000. It was in advertising. So then I go from there to, luckily, an alumni at my college, I was about to get evicted. So I got into financial services because of necessity. So I worked for her part-time to make some extra money. And then at some point, what I realized was I'm making $25,000 here. I'm making an extra couple of $100 here a week. How much did my mother make? Because she, put us through school. I got a little bit of a scholarship at Lake Forest Academy. At Smith College, I got some money. I knew how much it was, but I knew I had to contribute $1,000 a year. But then it started dawning on me as we're doing financial plans. One of the questions is, well, how much do you make? And then how much do you spend? And so I called my mom and I remember asking her, well, how much did you make? And she hesitated and she did not feel comfortable telling me. And I told her the reason why I needed to know. I need to know. I need to know how you were able to buy that condo in Hyde Park for me, you, and my sister to live in. I need to know how you were able to get those groceries and go to the health food store and buy us healthy food because that's what you wanted us to eat. How did that lifestyle even exist? And at the time, she was making $50,000 is what she told us. That's what she made when she did that at that period of time. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm making half of that, so this really isn't going to work. But I also didn't even account for inflation because that wasn't a lesson that I had gotten, that every 25 years, and I want everybody to hear this, every 20 to 25 years, you need to double what you make just to have your lifestyle keep up with the lifestyle you had 25 years prior.
I have a quick question for you. When I graduated from college, North Carolina A&T State University, School of Business, where the dean was Quaister Craig, I graduated with a degree in business administration, but I didn't have $1 to my name. And I went to the seminary and then to law school. I ended up with this book because I had been watching an infomercial called Wealth Without Risk by a guy named Charles J. Givens. I think he's deceased now, and he may have even done some time. He encouraged the people who read his book to take $25 every month, put it in a mutual fund, and using a method of basically dollar cost averaging. When the stock market was high, your $25 would buy fewer shares of the mutual fund. But when the market was low, your $25 would buy more of the shares in the mutual fund. And as a result, over a period of time, looking at the market's highs and lows, Afia, my little $25 every month would continue to buy shares of stock in a mutual fund, given a little bit of financial direction and a little bit of help. Does that still make sense in today's environment? Because I'm not so sure I can explain why I'm still broke.
First of all, my big smile came from someone told you to start early, which is so important because, as we know in history, at least the history of our economy keeps growing. That means the stock market is moving in this direction. So what you were able to buy for the price of the exact same mutual fund, I don't know what you bought at the time, of what you would do now is very different. Now, there is a specific number of what you should have in retirement. And based on whatever returns you're getting, there's a specific amount of money that you should be putting away each month. So I would be excited if everyone who's listening to this would start with $25 a month into a mutual fund. That's actually what I literally encourage. Now, when I'm talking to adults, I can go as low as $25 a month into some major mutual fund companies. But for adults, usually I say, let's start with 100. But what I will do is I'll give you some numbers. So if you wanted $1 million by the time you were 65, Mr. Jackson, if you started at 20, you would need to do $135 a month. And this is if you got a 9% rate of return. And I like giving statistics. The stock market has averaged 10% since the 1920s. So saying 9% is not a crazy number. And I hope everyone heard you when you said the ups and the downs.
Hold on one second, Afia. I've got to take a break here, but we're going to pick right back up on this conversation when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the nation's best financial planner, Afia Ricks. I'm so glad she's our guest on our conversation with Atiba. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's Afternoon Drive Time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett says she will not campaign with the Democratic Senate nominee James Tallarico after losing the primary.
It was racist. It was a racist race. It is what it is.
Speaking at the Global Black Economic Forum, Crockett suggested race played a role in her loss, and she plans to campaign with down-ballot Black Democrats to help boost turnout. Former University of Michigan employee Paige Shiver is suing the school after an inappropriate relationship with former football coach Sharon Moore, who is Black, led to his firing. Shiver wants records released from the university's investigation and claims employees violated her privacy by illegally accessing her medical records. An Atlanta Grammy-winning producer, Jermaine Dupri, is suing Sony Music for millions of dollars. In a federal lawsuit filed this week, Dupri claims Sony underpaid him for songs he helped produce or perform on, including music dating back to the 1990s. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Cleaning starts with one small task, and suddenly it's the whole house. Luckily, there's AirTasker. Post your task, set your budget, and choose a tasker to help. From carpet cleaning to finally tackling the junk drawer. Go to airtasker.com or download the app.
AirTasker. Get anything done?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers got by Colorado Wednesday night 4-3. A very impressive at-bat for Dodgers shortstop Mookie Betts in the 8th inning. Mookie had 2 strikes on him after facing 8 pitches. On the 9th pitch, Mookie delivered a game-winning RBI single. The Dodgers are off today. They're at home Friday night against Arizona. The Major League Baseball draft is Saturday. UCLA shortstop Rock Cholowski is projected to be the #1 overall pick. Cholowski was voted Big Ten Conference Player of the Year this season. He batted .320 with 21 homers and 60 RBIs. First pick in the draft belongs to the Chicago White Sox. In my Thursday afternoon sports update, I'll have a recap for you on Coco Gauff at Wimbledon. The 22-year-old African-American is playing this morning in the semifinals against Carolina Muchova. Coco was aiming for her first Wimbledon championship. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Unapologetically progressive. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. We don't tell you what to think, just what to think about.
Hey, I am D.L. Hughley, host of the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, heard weekdays from 2 to 4 exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. I promise to make you think a little, but laugh a whole lot more. So tune in to the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show 2 to 4 only on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Number 14. That's where Talkers Magazine ranked Tavis Smiley on their heavy 100 list of the 100 most important talk radio hosts in America. Join Tavis weekdays, 9 a.m. to noon or 9 p.m. to midnight. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. Let's get something straight, shall we? Holding a Black elected official accountable is not the same as having a personal beef with them. That distinction matters, and too often it gets blurred, sometimes on purpose, I think. The minute someone raises a real concern about outcomes, about votes, about spending priorities, about broken promises, it gets reframed as an attack, as disrespect, as tearing down our own. We need to stop that, y'all. That framing does a disservice to the very communities these leaders represent. Accountability is not betrayal. Accountability is what elected office requires from everybody, regardless of the seat or who's sitting in it. Let me ask you a quick question. Do you think I have a personal beef with Donald Trump? It ain't personal. It's his anti-Black policies. You feel me? So why is it always framed as personal animus when the critique is in Black? See, you can miss me with that mess. Black communities have fought too hard and for too long to get representation at the table. That fight doesn't end once someone wins an election and becomes president of the country, or for that matter, the city council. If anything, it raises the stakes. Representation without results is not the goal. Representation that delivers, now that's the goal. So, in the future, when we talk about a policy failure, let's talk about the policy. Let's keep our eyes on the actual record, the votes, the budgets, the promises, the perennially missed deadlines, the outcomes in people's daily lives. Because the moment we start treating accountability as disloyalty, we lose the ability to ask for better from anyone. We must never surrender our agency to be outraged when our leaders underperform. Our communities deserve leaders who welcome scrutiny, not ones who hide behind identity to avoid it. Now, let me put my hard hat on, go back outside, and see if these procrastination Crenshaw construction crews have shown up yet. I'm saving space for grace, but if these trucks don't show up soon, well, you already know. With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, the J Lunch Club, right here on KBLA Talk 1580. We're in our conversation with Atiba. Our very special guest is Afia Ricks. Afia is one of the nation's leading financial planners and advisors, and I'm grateful that she's joining us here on our show. Atiba, welcome forward, and Afia, welcome forward as well.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
I do want to finish this point that we were making just before the break, and that is this. I mean, I was squeezing to get $25 to invest in a mutual fund out of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
At the time I was growing up, there was Blockbuster. So I wouldn't go to the theater. I'd wait for it to come out on Blockbuster with my VCR, right? Rather than get a new car, I got a used car. And I'm thinking in this environment, some good advice for the average person listening to this radio show who's on the 405, the 101, the 5, the 10, the 118, and the 110. If you're in LA and you're trying to get a new car in this environment, you might be making a big mistake, because I think what I hear Afia saying is that we've got some choices to make from our present income to squeeze out now the $135 a month that we need to find out of our existing income in order to earn a percentage higher than what banks pay that our grandmothers used to put in a banking account because of inflation. We have to find a return that's somewhere around 9 or 10%. Afia?
I agree. And you can find
I got all that from you. I just need to make sure that's what you said.
Yeah, I mean that. I'm just giving you the numbers. I wish I could adjust the numbers down to where $25 would work. But the reason why I would love if somebody would start with $25 to the point that you brought. That $25 is not going to DoorDash. That $25 is not going to a pack of cigarettes. That $25 is not going to something that is not going to be as useful as having $1 million when you're 65 years old. Now, the difference is if you do it at 50, then you need to get to $1 million. You need to save $2,643. So waiting is really a big issue for a lot of people because they're waiting for the perfect time or they're waiting for the perfect instance. And it's like, no. A lot of us are missing out on these returns that are happening right now. The returns right now are actually so unrealistic. The market's doing so well, but are people even participating? They're $25, $135, or even $2,000, $3,000, whatever someone can afford to do. I would love if they would take a percentage of their money and try out the stock market and put some money to the side.
Atiba?
Yeah, Jesse, I was thinking about your editorial when you started in terms of what, just what's going on in the world right now. Afia, what do you see that happens right now with the stock market? I'm assuming that things that happen in DC affect the market. What are some of the things that you see, and what is some of the advice that you might give to someone listening?
There's always going to be various components of the world, let alone the United States, that will positively and negatively affect the market. And I want to give another statistic. The market's up 75% of the time. It's down 25% of the time. Atiba, when do you think is the best time to buy? When the stock market is up or when the stock market is down?
I would assume when it's down.
But you may not know this from my perspective, but I'll just tell you, most people, when everyone's talking about, oh my God, things are great, and the stock market's up, that's when they want to start participating. But if something's, I'll just say, said on TV, or some negative news comes out, even if that news flips in 24 to 48 hours and the market shoots up from being down, if you weren't even in to play the game, you're not participating in any of it. The other thing I get is people say, well, investing's like gambling. And I'm like, if you're looking at it short term, it can feel like gambling. But just like if you're flipping a house, like the shorter the term of that investment, the more uncertainty of what it can do. But the stock market goes up and down. And if you're doing what Mr. Jackson mentioned, which is dollar cost averaging, it takes your emotions out of it. You're participating as the market grows. But most importantly, when it's down and emotionally you're not certain, it's forcing you to do what you should be doing, which is when the market is down, you should be buying and you should be participating. So yes, things in Washington can affect what's going on in the stock market, but also, weather can affect, unfortunately, what's going on in the stock market. There's so many outliers that do affect what's going on in the stock market, but you have to be in it to win it. And I also recommend, and I'm obviously biased in this, but I also recommend that you initially at least have a financial advisor that is walking you through the process. So that way you're not blindsided or you're making emotional decisions versus doing historical or intelligent decisions based off the statistics.
Sophia, I'm assuming that the median income for African Americans, and this is not statistically based, it's just my feeling, we're somewhere between $60,000 and $90,000 for a family.
Yes, Atiba, you actually had the exact numbers, which I loved you sent earlier. But yes, it's between 60 and 90. That's great.
So what changes in our lifestyles have to be made to squeeze out a monthly investment over time that allows us to play when the market's low and when the market's high? But I think I heard you say, but we've got to be consistent over time.
Yes. The first step is doing a budget. And I know a lot of my clients, they'll do their own budgets. And I'm like, okay, well, let me do a budget. Let me do your budget. And what we do is we have categories, but then I highly recommend you go into your bank app and I need you to scroll and see what is coming out each month, because there's some things that people are paying for that they don't even want, that are like subscription based or whatever it is. And those could be monies that could turn into tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long run. So step one is really reviewing your budget, because I always find money when I'm doing a budget with someone.
Atiba?
You said you always find money. The next question I would ask is, where do you find it?
I find more months. I find more months when I do a budget.
Because Gina said put aside the lottery money.
It could be lottery tickets. For me, it was a sneaker habit. For some of my friends, it was their vices, be it drinking, be it smoking. And some people on here are saying, no, that's not me. There's something in there. Trust me, there's usually something in there. And then the response is, oh no, I can't give that up. I need that in order to be okay just out here in the world. And honestly, sneakers was the problem for me, but for everyone else, it's different things. I mean, it's these clothing companies that are making clothes really cheap. So people think, oh, I'm getting something for just this, and emotional purchases is a huge issue. There's a lot of things that people could look at in their budget, and I'll help them find it.
I drive to Indiana to get my gas, and I live not far from where Afia grew up. I drive all the way to Calumet Avenue and to Burr Street in Gary, Indiana, where I found gas for $2.99 a gallon. I'm just not doing $5.65 here in the city of Chicago. That's just a fact. And so I'm making it squeeze that way. I'm buying my toilet paper at Aldi's and at the Family Dollar. And I'm meeting a whole bunch of people, by the way, who walk up to me and say, hey, you're Jesse Jackson Jr. And I'm like, yeah, we shop right here at the Family Dollar.
Absolutely.
And I get my Dawn there. I get my deodorant there. I get my pods from my laundry there. I'm not hanging around Jules. It ain't happening. And there's a whole bunch of adjustments I'm making right now to squeeze. Now you're telling me $135 out of whatever it is I get a month, put it in the market. Is there a particular mutual fund or series of mutual funds like the tech economy, like AI, that we should be looking at? I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Afia. When we come forward, you're going to have plenty of time for that answer. More on KBLA Talk 1580 in conversation with Atiba in just a moment.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Chris Holden, former California Assembly member, former mayor of Pasadena, and CEO of LA Fire Justice. I've spent my career fighting for our communities. When I saw Edison celebrating $4.5 billion in profits while Eaton Fire survivors struggle to make ends meet, it made me simultaneously sick and furious. Families and individuals are dealing with financial pressure, insurance delays, costly remediation, and the painful question of how to rebuild their lives, while the utility that caused the fire is paying its executives millions and is more profitable than ever. That's not justice. That's a disgrace. Join the lawsuit with LA Fire Justice to hold Edison accountable. We're here to help you, your family, and our community recover. Visit lafirejustice.com today to learn more about your eligibility and how to start.
Advertisement. Douglas Boxer, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Listen up, KBLA delegation. We have something you need to hear. Right now, you may qualify for low-cost home internet. We're not talking about a catch. This is real. Many internet service providers offer low-cost internet plans if anyone in your household is enrolled in CalFresh, Medi-Cal, SSI, or is income eligible. There are a lot of families in our community who deserve to be connected. Here's all you do. Call 844-461-7893. That's the Get Connected call center. Real people ready to help you enroll today. Or go online to internetforallnow.org to find a provider near you. You may also qualify for a low-cost computer through Human IT. Connectivity is not a luxury. In 2026, it's a necessity, and you deserve access just like everybody else. Call 844-461-7893. That's 844-461-7893. KBLA's got you. If you missed any of this, you can always go to our website at kbla1580.com. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 in partnership with the California Emerging Technology Fund, CETF.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. 10 Toes In serves as a mentorship and domestic violence prevention program. They support, educate, and empower couples during and after incarceration. They assist male returning citizens to re-enter society successfully and to help them maintain a healthy relationship with their romantic partner. They offer a mentorship support group for formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In teaches its Intimate Relationships 101 curriculum at male prisons throughout the state of California. They host sister support group meetings for women who are intimately involved with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To access their services or make a donation, please visit them online at 10toesin.org or find them on Facebook or Instagram. They are healing lives through relationships. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Knock, knock, Capital One Bank guy.
Wow, Charles Barkley?
I just moved into the neighborhood. Can I borrow some Wi-Fi?
Sure, Chuck. That's what the Capital One Cafe is here for. Open 7 days a week.
Oh, can I use your ATM? My dog walker only takes cash.
Anything for a neighbor.
Can I try the catchphrase?
Sure. Take it for a spin.
There's no fees or minimums on Capital One checking accounts.
Nice, Chuck. I'll take it from here. Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Visit CapitalOne.com/bank guide for details. Capital One and name member FDIC.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Thought-Provoking Thursdays, and we're in conversation with Atiba. Atiba needs no introduction. Afia Ricks has over 2 decades of experience in the financial services industry. She currently holds her Series 7, uses as Series 6, Series 26, and Series 63 FINRA licenses. She also is a life insurance license in various states. Afia, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for having me.
I can only imagine that it's hard to hear your biography read back to you sometimes, but it's so very impressive. I got to share this with you, and I'm sure Atiba can appreciate this. Y'all, everybody on this call and then in the range of my voice knows I've done some time. And so, you know, I came out of the joint, and my children were still living very middle-class lives. For them, essentially nothing had changed. And I heard a song a couple of months ago that reminded me of the joint that I haven't forgotten, because it has basically scaled me back to what I can afford and how I can live. I ate noodles, no packet, cereal with the canned Merc, powder Merc, no Merc, waffles, no syrup, jelly, no jelly, nothing. Oatmeal, no sugar. It seems to me that I'm in a better position right now, Afia, to actually squeeze something out of my meager little income to invest, no matter how difficult the circumstances were. Each of us can look at that little bit of sacrifice that can put us on the road to overcoming some of these affordability issues, and also saving for our family's future in spite of. Afia, talk to me now.
So what I'll tell you is this, is we talked about starting early, but I also know that some people are already investing, which is great. But like you said, you need to squeeze a little bit more if you can. Now, the other thing is I've had clients that have been putting money away, and then when COVID hit, or even like this most recent year hit, they felt guilty about pulling the money. But I was like, well, that $50, $100, what would you have actually spent that on? And they're like, I'm so glad I did this. And then my response is, who else in your family should be doing this? Who else in your circle should be doing this? Because the sad part about it is most of us who do it even though we don't have a bunch of money, by the way, you don't have to have a bunch of money to be wealthy. You just have to be really great and really disciplined with what you talked about, which is dollar cost averaging. So the thing about it is we don't want to be the only wealthy ones. If we start to do this, that means we're going to get older and that we're going to want to go on trips. And maybe at the time we'll only be able to afford road trips. Some of us will be able to afford to do the yachts and all the fun things. But do you understand, if you're the only one doing it, you got to tell your friends and your family that you want to come along on these trips to do it as well, or else you're paying. So I always tell people this: if you have life insurance and your family doesn't have a life insurance, that's a problem. If you have an investment account and your family doesn't have an investment account, that's a problem. When you're doing well later, they're going to ask you, why didn't you share this with us? Because as we just talked about, if I didn't learn it at home, that means my sister didn't learn it at home. You know what I mean? If our generation didn't learn it in school, that means the majority of our generation didn't learn it at school. So stop gatekeeping whoever you're getting financial advice from, but also don't get financial advice from anyone that's not licensed. At least when it comes to stock market investing, they need to be FINRA licensed. There's a website that's called FINRA Broker Check. The minute someone says, it's FINRA Broker Check, the minute someone's giving you investment advice, guess what? You need to get their government name and look them up. Trust me when I say I've looked up a couple people where they're like, my money, I don't know what happened. They invested it. And I'm looking and this person has disclosures, which means they did some things where they maybe got some customer complaints or some things like that. So that's the number one thing. But also number two, some of us already are investing money. Like, what returns are you getting? And one of the questions you asked, which by the way, I can't fully answer it. You said, what mutual fund? So I'm always curious, what do people already have, or what are they already investing in? Because what are the returns? By the way, you said 135 to get to $1 million. That's if you were 20 years old. And I'm not going to say that you're not 20 years old, but I think you're at the other number. If you were 20.
That hurts.
If you were 20.
We're still burying cash in Folgers cans out back.
Put it in the wall, put it in the freezer.
The mattress.
Is cash still good? Is cash still good, Afia? Is cash still good?
Cash is great. What do you mean? Cash is great.
It's been so long since I've had some of it in my pocket. I'm functioning with credit cards, with Apple Pay. I hardly ever come into contact with a bill any longer in terms of a dollar bill, transferable currency.
Cash is great. Cash
Still
is great because if you have invested, if you're investing, cash is great, because this is the thing, and this is the problem which most of us have, is most of us don't have a lot of cash. And if we have investments, it's locked up. And you want wealthy people, when the market goes down and the opportune time to buy is when it's down, and the news reporters say, oh my goodness, the world's going to end. Like, those are the best times to buy. But who has extra money to throw in extra when things aren't good? Because this is the thing about it. Usually when the economy's not good and the stock market's down, that also means some people lost their jobs. That also means people don't have enough money to spend. But that's why we're going to go back to, I bet you I could find something in both of your budgets. I bet you I could find something in your budget. You just don't want me to find it. You just don't want me to find it. And I know that's why some people don't meet with me, because they're like, he's going to have me stop doing this habit that I don't want to really give up doing. You know, me and the fellas got to have cigars on Friday. Like, I'm not giving that up. But I'll show you that cigars with the fellas, if you invested that over that period of time, could turn into $50,000, which could be maybe a down payment for your child to buy something. It could be money for a new car, and maybe a used car for your child, because we don't buy them new cars. At least my mom didn't. She didn't play that game. So we really just got to figure. And this is the thing. I know someone's listening to this and they're saying, I'm telling you, Afia, I don't have any money. And you know, I'm going to call your bluff, because if I don't have time to cook meals. So going to get sushi is okay. It's because it's fast. I need something fast. I need something quick. There's always ways to make adjustments. And I grew up in a healthy eating family, so I don't want you giving up eating the healthy food. I like the oatmeal without the sugar. Everything else made me a little nervous. But if you don't take care of your health now, that will also cost you later. Everything that you do good compounds good over time. Everything that we do bad compounds bad over time.
I got to go. Thea, thank you so much for joining the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Amazing guest, Atiba. So grateful. More on KBLA with Johnny Mack when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. and the J Lunch Club right here at KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett says she will not campaign with the Democratic Senate nominee James Tallarico after losing the primary.
It was racist. It was a racist race. It is what it is.
Speaking at the Global Black Economic Forum, Crockett suggested race played a role in her loss, and she plans to campaign with down-ballot Black Democrats to help boost turnout. Former University of Michigan employee Paige Shiver is suing the school after an inappropriate relationship with former football coach Sharon Moore, who was Black, led to his firing. Shiver wants records released from the university's investigation and claims employees violated her privacy by illegally accessing her medical records. An Atlanta Grammy-winning producer, Jermaine Dupri, is suing Sony Music for millions of dollars. In a federal lawsuit filed this week, Dupri claims Sony underpaid him for songs he helped produce or perform on, including music dating back to the 1990s. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Cleaning starts with one small task, and suddenly it's the whole house. Luckily, there's AirTasker. Post your task, set your budget, and choose a tasker to help. From carpet cleaning to finally tackling the junk drawer. Go to airtasker.com or download the app.
AirTasker. Get anything done?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers got by Colorado Wednesday night 4-3. A very impressive at-bat for Dodgers shortstop Mookie Betts in the 8th inning. Mookie had 2 strikes on him after facing 8 pitches. On the 9th pitch, Mookie delivered a game-winning RBI single. The Dodgers are off today. They're at home Friday night against Arizona. The Major League Baseball draft is Saturday. UCLA shortstop Rock Cholowski is projected to be the #1 overall pick. Cholowski was voted Big Ten Conference Player of the Year this season. He batted .320 with 21 homers and 60 RBIs. First pick in the draft belongs to the Chicago White Sox. In my Thursday afternoon sports update, I'll have a recap for you on Coco Gauff at Wimbledon. The 22-year-old African-American is playing this morning in the semifinals against Carolina Muchova. Coco is aiming for her first Wimbledon championship. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
There is no denying that we've always been the conscience of this country. KBLA Talk 1580 is progressive talk radio built for our community, by our community, and with hosts who look like you, live near you, and care about what you care about. 50,000 watts of truth right here in Southern California. KBLA Talk 1580. Listen live on your AM radio dial at 1580 or stream us live on our KBLA1580.com website or on our free KBLA 1580 app.
Unapologetically progressive.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., and it's Thought Provoking Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are now entering the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. Johnny Mack is a social entrepreneur and scholar practitioner with an expertise in subject areas of peace, conflict, and social change movements. Dr. Mack's research includes extensive study of Martin Luther King Jr.'s logic of nonviolence and the U.S. civil rights movement. He explicates Dr. King's logic of nonviolence using King's call to restructure the social edifice, and particularly its triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism, with a revolution in values that has affected through peaceable power. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to our show.
Thank you, sir. Great to be here.
Johnny, every now and then, and we've been together for the better part of a year now, I think we have to sharpen the pencil and just reflect for a moment, and maybe for this hour, if it's okay with you, to kind of position Dr. King in the context of your work, of the work of this radio show, of our efforts to be in alignment in our time and in our space with the work of the master. And by the master, I do mean Dr. King. So I have come up with some questions of you to help guide us through this hour that might offer some clarity, and your insights will definitely offer clarity on these questions. Dr. King argued that racism was structural, not just personal prejudice. Given today's debates over DEI programs being rolled back at companies and universities, does he think we're moving toward or away from King's vision of dismantling systematic racism? I'm watching a lot of television shows where people are saying, I'm not racist. I've never done anything to anybody black. I got black friends. I'm not discussing personal prejudice. I'm discussing the institutional and structural dismantling of programs that were designed to help overcome systemic racism. Where would Dr. King be, Johnny, in your thinking at this moment?
Well, Dr. King left us prematurely with this very question of structural racism, institutional racism. That is, Jesse, racism embedded in the edifice, the social structures. And so he was working through that challenge. So here we are 50 years later, 60 years later. Are we any further in understanding that challenge, that is structural institutional racism, how it manifests today, and how we would or should go about addressing it? And so I think King would be right on point with us or with this question. If he suddenly appeared today and saw where we are today, I think he would say we've lost too much ground. I thought we would be much further ahead on this issue, and we better get busy, get about the business of addressing the problem. I think the real question then becomes, Jesse, how? And, I think, Jesse, that King never answered the question how we restructure the edifice. He didn't live long enough, but it was on his mind. And really, he left that for us to figure out the how.
Johnny, before I move to this question, this second question in this triple evil, I think Dr. King would also help us better understand the role that the law played in fighting institutional racism. We've gotten a lesson in the last 9 years, every single American, in what the absence of protection of the law actually does. 300,000 Black women lose their jobs in Washington, D.C., when our generals and other men and women in the Pentagon can't be promoted, when we see that we are dropping in federal and state contracts and that corporations are rolling back their commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion. There is a role that the law played, not in dealing with personal prejudice, plenty of that going on, but in dismantling the structure that says, I will not look at women, I will not look at Blacks, I will not look at Hispanics, because the law, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the Department of Justice is not on our side. Let me raise this next question, and we have about 2 minutes before we come forward. On the question of poverty, King was building the Poor People's Campaign when he died, arguing that racial justice was incomplete without economic justice. With inflation, housing costs, and wealth inequality still dominating the headlines, what would King's approach to poverty look like in your best estimation, Dr. Mack, in 2026?
Well, if you don't mind, Jesse, I know we only have about a minute and a half to respond to that. I hope we come back to it after the break. But you started your question by talking about the law itself and how King looked to the law. I thought you were going to actually follow up with that question. And then, perhaps we could, address the question of poverty, because I think that King would be very disappointed and surprised at how we see, understand, and engage, quote unquote, the law, the system, which is part of that social structure.
Johnny, I agree. And I'm grateful that you brought that to my attention, and we will certainly deal with it when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're going to have an in-depth conversation with Dr. Johnny Mack, whose research around the triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism are so prevalent today. And we are trying to sharpen the pencil as we go forward with our show right here at KBLA. Johnny Mack is the anchor of what we do here at KBLA and our ministry. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's sharp. She's fearless. I don't know what they told you, but if they told you that cutting me off is how I was going to get clicks, stop it now. She's that girl, and she's bringing all of that to your radio this summer. Amanda Seals is here. I am Amanda Seals. Comedian, artist, actress, activist, truth teller. The woman who never bites her tongue is coming to KBLA Talk 1580. And baby, the conversations are about to be unmatched. Every Friday, she's going to be lit noon to 2 p.m. and back again 4 to 6 p.m. starting Friday, July 17th. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. Amanda Seals, keeping it real, keeping it raw, and keeping it rooted. Politics, pop culture, Black excellence, the stuff they don't want us talking about. Amanda's talking about all of it.
You keep interrupting me when I'm talking, and you don't want to hear the point that I'm going to make. And yet you want me to respect your point. And that's not how a debate works.
This is not your average radio show. This is a Seals Summer. Fridays, noon to 2, 4 to 6. Starting Friday, July 17th. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. Don't just listen. Tune in.
I love days like these at the pool, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. I'm ready to make a splash with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza. Skyrizi is a prescription-only injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. At 4 months, most people saw 90% clearer skin when measured from head to toe, and many were even 100% plaque-free. People also saw significant improvement in psoriasis symptoms of pain, redness, itching, and burning.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Now there's nothing on my skin thanks to Skyrizi, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're in the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. Dr. Mack is an expert in the space of peaceable power. under the nonviolent philosophy of Martin Luther King Jr., Mack argues that nonviolence is a metalogic with direct structural and cultural forms that counterpose Johann Galtung's seminal conflict of violence triangles. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse.
Dr. Mack, just before the break, I did ask you a question about the structural compromises in the law, where I've tried to argue that Dr. King argued that it is one thing for a person to personally have a feeling about me, but it is another thing to have the law on my side protecting me from the harm that they could cause to me personally.
Mhm.
And if there ever were an education that's taking place right now, we are watching not a real estate developer from New York running his mouth, denying some African Americans housing opportunities, violating New York City codes and state law, and whatever methods of manipulation he was able to use to become who he became. We're talking about the President of the United States with the Supreme Court and the Congress of the United States dismantling Second Reconstruction, dismantling the Voting Rights Act, attacking the Civil Rights Act, Robinson versus Calais. We're talking about the Dobbs decision. We're looking at the removal of the law that is responsible for the entire world that we've built since 1964, 65, and during the Civil Rights Movement. I think Dr. King would see that as a structural component necessary to change the dynamic of men and women's thinking in this country and maybe even in the world. Dr. Mack?
Yeah, Jesse, I'm so happy that we're having this conversation. It is the conversation of the day, and too often, or most often, we're not having it. I think that the law is under attack. Our whole framework in our country is based fundamentally on democracy development and the rule of law. In King's time, King felt that he could rely upon the law. And what that says is King felt that he could rely upon the people responsible for ensuring that the integrity of the law was respected, that we can rely on that fundamental idea that the law rules, and that no person, no individual, no group are above the law, that we are all equally subject to the law. If King were with us today, and I think you inferred this in your question, he would take pause in the fact that the rule of law, as we have traditionally understood it, is not holding. That even our highest elected official or official is not a respecter of the rule of law. How then can we rely on that law? I think that's a very big question. And I think the answer that we, the people, give is the most important answer that we can possibly give at this time in our history.
Other than the fact that you're an extremely busy person, I'm an extremely busy person, Tavis is an extremely busy person, William Barber's an extremely busy person, Sharpton, Johnson, we're all very, very busy people. We are in agreement on something, and that is midterms. Atiba would say it this way: midterms effing matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reestablishment of the law, the common framework by which we in a civilized society approach these issues, including but not limited to the dismantling of systemic racism in the nation, requires the law to be on our side. The law was on our side under the leadership of Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln had problems, a lot of bad quotes. I get it. Political timing, was a creature of the time, etc. But when it came time to pull the trigger, Lincoln issued the executive order. When it came time to pull the trigger, he advanced the cause of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States so that the country would not slip backwards without the law. So I don't want, as Dr. King would probably say, anyone to say that I am downplaying the significance of the law in any struggle, because we have to codify our progress in the law, or another generation will have to combat or fight the exact same fight that we're fighting in the present, because we did not take the time to codify it in the law. That's the Dobbs decision. We had Roe v. Wade in 1973. Congress didn't codify it in the law, and there have been plenty of Democratic Congresses and Democratic presidents since 1973 who did not advance the rights of women in that space under the law. And hence, we are now right back to, can we get a Congress? Can we get a Senate? And can we get a president to do for us what multiple Congresses did not do, because we took our eyes off the law? That's the point that I want to make about that. If there is another method in the United States other than fighting for the law, please share it with us. I can't make anybody do something that we don't all agree to through the power of the Congress, the Senate, and the signature of the president, and the approval and the constitutionality of the court. So we have a method in this system for fighting this. There is no extra existential method, no method outside of the method that is the one that we agree upon, that it needs to go through Congress, that it needs to go through the Senate, that it needs to be reconciled and signed by a president. I think Dr. King understood that better than most.
Well, Jesse, I think you're right, but you got to go one step further. And you touched on it, and I think maybe you took a step back, not intentionally. Yes, the people have to vote for it. Yes, or Congress has to legislate it. Yes, the president has to sign it. At some point, the law becomes subject to that grander scheme of things that we call the Constitution, which is in of itself a priori, the academics would say, comes before, is the first law of law. And then that, Jesse, even has to be interpreted. Someone has to say what the intent of the Constitution is. And that is part of that social structure, that edifice of the law. Problem we are confronting today. And before I even say that, let me say that even when it comes to voting, voting depends upon the law, and the law depends upon voting. So there's a mutually reinforcing, virtuous relationship between voting and the law, yes. The challenge we are confronted with is who is interpreting the law?
Agreed. You know me, I'm the author of A More Perfect Union, 2001. Updated in 2019. I offered 9 amendments to the Constitution, and I said we need to start a constitutional struggle with plain language so that even the most conservative court in the United States cannot mistake what the plain language of these amendments would mean if added to the Constitution on healthcare, education, the environment, the fundamental right to vote, because you and I lived through Bush v. Gore. We've lived through a president who says that elections were shams, that they were rigged, but he's offered no proposal to strengthen elections in our democracy, only proposals to undermine democracy and rig democracy. If you wanted to strengthen democracy, you'd offer a constitutional right and turn every precinct in the United States into the same kind of secure situation that you've done with airports in every single terminal in the United States. You'd have a TSA form of officials whose sole responsibility is to make sure votes are counted, that they're handled appropriately, and that people are participating in the process without fear of intimidation or discrimination. That would be fair. That would be the way to strengthen democracy and encourage other democracies around the country to do the same. So I've offered amendments to the Constitution. And at every step of the way, amendments offered in 2001, this is 2026, still no Democratic candidates are running for president offering amendments to the Constitution. And when they do, they're offering reactionary amendments to a tyrannical president rather than amendments that would expand and strengthen democracy. So I'm not losing faith in democracy. I'm losing faith in candidates who are running for office who don't know, from my perspective, what they are talking about. They lack an understanding of the Constitution, not me. And I think Dr. King understood a more expansive view of the Constitution, and he would have been enthralled with the idea of a second Bill of Rights. In fact, Liz King and Barrett Pittner, Doctors King and Pittner, who are on our show on Tuesday, he is now offering an amendment, according to his Substack, that includes basically these 9 things in a single amendment to the Constitution. Whether that's practical or not is another question. But as we deconstruct what Dr. King would have us do at this hour, I have to ask the contemporary question in light of the fact that people are voting in the not too distant future, and that is this. One of the triple evils is poverty. What would King's approach to poverty look like in 2026 with people going to the polls to make a decision about affordability and the questions that confront a chicken on their table? Dr. Mack.
Well, Jesse, poverty is poverty. Want is want. Meeting basic human needs is basic. And I don't know that poverty, in its fundamental definition, as we understand it, is any different today than it is or than it was 50, 60, 70 years ago. King, of course, would be appalled that there is so much poverty, even in a time of plenty in the United States, as 1% of 1% accumulate, whatever the statistic is, some outlandish percentage of the resources, of the value, of the wealth of our nation. So he would be appalled, of course. The real question is, what would we do about it? What would he do about it? And you're suggesting a couple of things. Of course, voting is part of it. Voting is when people go to the polls, who will they want to represent them in order to enact those constitutional amendments as legislative authority? What type of leadership must we have? Yes, he would encourage voting for sure, but Jesse, he would encourage more than voting, because voting.
Johnny, let me throw this out at you.
Yeah,
because this is a fascinating conversation. I'm going to give Martin Luther King Jr. credit for an amendment, and I bet you it's the first time you've ever heard it today at any discourse or conversation.
Let's have it.
I think because of the Vietnam speech, and he said the resources that were designed to fight the war on poverty here at home are now being shifted to the war in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, while it may not have an author, the 26th Amendment to the Constitution, ratified towards the end of the Vietnam War, that the clearest spokesperson during that conflict, other than another white democratic socialist whose name escapes me right now, is Martin Luther King Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the argument is that if we can die in a rice paddy in Vietnam, we should be able to vote for the people in the United States who are sending our resources and sending our bodies and our treasury to Vietnam. That amendment is Martin Luther King Jr.'s amendment. It's also, I think, William Sloane Coffin's amendment. It's also Muhammad Ali's amendment. I'm not going to fight that war. When I look at the voices, it's the students at Kent State. It's their amendment. It's everyone who stood up against that war during that conflict, with, of course, Dr. King, Ali, William Sloane Coffin, and others articulating very clearly that those who handle the law, those who appropriate the resources, are sending them there, and they're not taking care of them here. And that raises, of course, for me, the next question. It is the law that is now spending $1.5 trillion, nearly $1.5 trillion on the war, on the Pentagon, the Department of War, the Gaza Strip, the Strait of Hormuz. And I don't hear a king voice emerging in this context to demand that those resources be spent on the triple evils right here at home. That crystallizes it for me a little bit better. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. We're in the World House with Johnny Mack and Jesse Jackson Jr. More with Johnny Mack when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Chicago leaders have broken ground on the Chicago Torture Justice Memorial in Washington Park.
When this memorial is completed, it will provide a space for education, community building, remembrance.
Black Mayor Brandon Johnson and other officials say it will be the nation's first permanent memorial honoring survivors of police torture, including those harmed by former Chicago Police Commander John Burge and detectives under his command. At least 24,000 police officers may be needed for the 2028 Olympics and Paralympics in Los Angeles. A bill backed by Black Mayor Karen Bass would allow temporary certification for out-of-state officers to help staff the games. And Bone Thugs and Harmony received their star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame Wednesday. Ahead of the ceremony, the legendary Cleveland rap group said the honor belongs not only to them, but also to their families, their city, their fans, and everyone who supported them from the start. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Cleaning starts with one small task, and suddenly it's the whole house. Luckily, there's AirTasker. Post your task, set your budget, and choose a tasker to help. From carpet cleaning to finally tackling the junk drawer. Go to airtasker.com or download the app.
AirTasker. Get anything done.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. BET and PBS, the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and NPR, the cover of Jet and the cover of Time. #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list, 20 honorary doctorate degrees, a dozen NAACP Image Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. From talk shows to talk radio, nobody's ever done it better. This is Tavis Smiley.
All I need is one mic. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. Let's get something straight, shall we? Holding a black elected official accountable is not the same as having a personal beef with them. That distinction matters, and too often it gets blurred, sometimes on purpose, I think. The minute someone raises a real concern about outcomes, about votes, about spending priorities, about broken promises, it gets reframed as an attack, as disrespect, as tearing down our own. We need to stop that, y'all. That framing does a disservice to the very communities these leaders represent. Accountability is not betrayal. Accountability is what elected office requires from everybody, regardless of the seat or who's sitting in it. Let me ask you a quick question. Do you think I have a personal beef with Donald Trump? It ain't personal. It's his anti-black policies. You feel me? So why is it always framed as personal animus when the critique is in black? See, you can miss me with that mess. Black communities have fought too hard and for too long to get representation at the table. That fight doesn't end once someone wins an election and becomes president of the country, or for that matter, the city council. If anything, it raises the stakes. Representation without results is not the goal. Representation that delivers, now that's the goal. So, in the future, when we talk about a policy failure, let's talk about the policy. Let's keep our eyes on the actual record, the votes, the budgets, the promises, the perennially missed deadlines, the outcomes in people's daily lives. Because the moment we start treating accountability as disloyalty, we lose the ability to ask for better from anyone. We must never surrender our agency to be outraged when our leaders underperform. Our communities deserve leaders who welcome scrutiny, not ones who hide behind identity to avoid it. Now, let me put my hard hat on, go back outside, and see if these procrastination Crenshaw construction crews have shown up yet. I'm saving space for grace, but if these trucks don't show up soon, well, you already know. With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest and mentor to me personally and to the program, Dr. Johnny Mack, whose seminal work always asks the question, after confrontation, then what? A legitimate question, challenging the putative logic of nonviolent social change theory and practice. Particularly, he rearticulates nonviolence beyond the traditional understanding of nonviolent struggle as principally nonviolent resistance. Just because I'm nonviolent doesn't mean I'm not going to defend myself or I'm not going to resist injustice. I appreciate that. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and to Worldwide with Johnny Mack and the World House.
Thank you. It's just great to be here, Jesse.
Johnny, just before the break, you were making a point.
Indeed. In fact, I'll pick up where you just left off about voting and what nonviolent is, what nonviolent direct action even is. Now, this will surprise many, and maybe even you, Jesse. I would argue that voting is a form of nonviolent direct action. And we miss the significance of that statement. If we don't vote, then we miss the opportunity for direct action to effect social change, to create the environment for change to take place. That is almost the quintessential definition of nonviolent direct action, to bring attention to an issue, to create the environment for the change itself. And so when you think about what you just read about my own work, not so much to bring attention to that work, but to make the point, Jesse, after confrontation, then what? If voting is a form of nonviolent direct action, then the confrontation is going to the ballot box. It is going inside the voting booth and confronting the issues most important to me. And so then my question comes, after confrontation, then what? Stay with me on this, Jesse, please.
Take your time.
After confrontation, then what? If I'm right about it, that voting is a form of direct action, it is a form of direct confrontation, it is a form of even resistance, it is a form of intervention, it is a form of engagement. If it is all of those things, After that confrontation, do we go back home, sit down, and do nothing? After that confrontation, then what? What else should we be doing besides voting? We don't have, I would argue, Jesse, not even the conversation, let alone the social infrastructures to answer that question. After the confrontation of voting, what else must I do? Even before the confrontation, even the preparation for voting, what should I have done as a form of nonviolent direct action, even before I get to the booth, even before I cast the ballot? We make our nonviolent direct action, therefore, I would argue, whether it's voting or protesting or marching, we make it an event. We make it a transaction. We don't make it an institutional and structural framework that ensures the relevance and longevity of our action.
You know, I was listening to Tavis's editorial right after the break, and he talked about accountability, and he talked about it's not personal, but some of us haven't matured to the idea that on the then what question after I vote, let me tell you, the first time I ever voted was for Harold Washington in 1983.
That was a good vote cast.
It was a great vote cast, but you know what? All of us put so much faith in Harold Washington, I was okay with whatever Harold was doing downtown in city government because my faith was in Harold to make the city more just.
Now you make the point.
Did I let my guard go down? Then what? Then what? Well, then I trusted Harold. Because ain't nothing I can do with the city council. Let him fight for Doliak. Let him fight Dick Mill.
Now you're making
Let
the
him
point.
fight Alderman Burke. You know, let him fight the institutional Democratic Party in Chicago. I'm with Harold. That's what we do. I'm with Obama. I'm with him.
Now you're
Then
preaching.
what?
You're
Then what?
preaching.
Well, then we got to get to affordable care. Then we got to get to better housing. Then we got to get to the passage of a Civil Rights Act and a Voting Rights Act that might have avoided the whole Robinson versus Calais decision. That's not criticizing Obama. It's accountability to the progress that we've made, because your successor ain't gonna give us these things. This isn't a beauty contest. It's the then what. Well, the then what is I gave you my vote, but now I have confidence and faith in you. And I think Black people, to Tavis's editorial, we let go after the confrontation, after the resistance at the poll. And we count on some people we never hear from again after they get elected. We don't hear from them until they come back around to the churches again, seeking a vote. And that's not the same dynamic, Johnny.
That's right.
That other communities have.
That's it, Jesse. And, you know, you've hit the nail on the head, as they say. Not only that, this point of accountability, not only holding those whom we voted for accountable, but remember at the top of our discussion, you talked about the law and the responsibility of Congress, the responsibility of the executive, the responsibility of the court. We have a responsibility to hold each level of government accountable, including we, the people. Yes, we, the people, have a responsibility to hold the Supreme Court, the highest court of the land itself, accountable. But we feel we don't have the wherewithal to do that. And so whatever they say, whatever they do, we suck our thumbs and say, oh, well, that's the court. They've ruled. But when the court doesn't hold true to the fundamental principles embodied within the Constitution, it is as I'm drawing a blank. It'll come back to me. It is our duty. It is our duty to hold the court accountable.
That's the way I felt. And I can't speak for anybody else at KBLA, but that's the way I felt when Barack Obama nominated Merrick Garland to the court. And then when Mitch McConnell with whatever's going on with him. God bless him, and thoughts and prayers in that direction, whatever that means. Pulling for him and his family. But, all we can offer is what the Senate offers people who lose their children in school shootings, thoughts and prayers, since the Senate never does anything about the Second Amendment and the interpretation of the Second Amendment.
Yes.
Thoughts and prayers to Mitch McConnell's family. Like that's going to do him a whole lot right through here. With that said, I mean, I don't think Obama put up a fight for Merrick Garland to be on the court, but I can tell you something else. With hindsight, when Merrick Garland became Attorney General under Joe Biden, this guy right here is responsible for what's going on right now. And we don't even mention his name.
Indeed.
And, we were so busy happy with Joe and happy with Kamala that for 2 years in that administration, Merrick Garland was afraid. He was scared. And then we can look with hindsight and say, well, now this is the same guy Obama wanted on the Supreme Court. Well, what kind of Supreme Court justice was he going to be in the first place? Let alone when he's Joe Biden's Attorney General. He's awful, just awful. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, we're going to figure out how we can be supportive of Johnny Mack and hear some final thoughts from Johnny. More on KBLA Talk 1580 right here on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
You deserve a treat. A $10 bill credit treat. If you get an LADWP paper bill but go online to pay it, stop! Break up with your mailbox. It's time to go paperless. With paperless billing, bill reminders come straight to your inbox. You can access 7 years of past bills in your online account, and you don't have to deal with paper clutter piling up. It's a win for you, your time, and the environment. $10 bill credit for new LADWP paperless billing signups. LADWP.com/paperless.
Going to a world king stress and ride Metro. With direct service from across LA County, it's the easy way to get there for just $1.75 each way.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and a drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds. Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at kbla1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right? It doesn't clean as well.
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Oh, let me make an announcement.
Attention shoppers, if you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Stop paying for watered-down detergents. Pay for clean. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Pods. Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
The 101, the 5, the 10, the 118, and the 110. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're in the World House with Johnny Mac. Johnny, how can we support your work?
I hope that you can visit my website, or that you will visit my website at theworldhouseproject.org. It's right there at the bottom of your screens, those who are following us on the internet, and at our website, theworldhouseproject.org. You can learn about our work, more about our work, and you can also find the donate button there, the link where you can make a tax-deductible contribution.
I can't begin to tell you how important Johnny's work is, not only to our show, but to the nation. We have some amazing people who listen to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and oftentimes they come to our show to center themselves, to prepare themselves going into the weekend for whatever's coming next from this administration. And you can listen to the tone, the spirit within which Johnny Mac speaks to give you some sense of the kind of command that he has in some very, very powerful and influential meetings, not only with the late Reverend Jesse Jackson, but Reverend Sharpton and most of the leadership class within the African-American community. Is well respected around the world. Presidents of African countries, sub-Saharan African countries and Caribbean countries call on Johnny Mac for advice all the time. I am so grateful that he gives us this time once a week right here at KBLA Talk 1580. So what is the sine qua bonum of it all? What is the sum of it all, Johnny? What is the I'm trying to find one of these great Latin words that Dr. King used to use to describe the point of it all. Let me just say it in English. What is the point of it all, Johnny?
Yeah, so what is we gonna do?
Yeah, that part. Well, what is we gonna do? What are we gonna do next? Where do we go from here? Chaos or community?
Where do we go from here?
Johnny?
Well, Jesse, I think we as a people, and anyone under the sound of my voice who identifies themselves in that framework, we as a people, King would say, are going to get to the promised land, but the way we'll get there is not individually. We, he said, not you and not me, not I, we as a people will get to the promised land. And so we together have to work together. We have to struggle together. We have to plan together. We have to organize together. We have to mobilize together. And we have to act together. We have to create the organizations, the social institutions that we, the people, can make decisions over, where we can deliberate, we can decide, and we can act, rather than relying solely on representative government, for example, or solely on an executive that we hope, once in office, will act on our behalf. We have to have the institutional structural relationships within our communities and across connecting our communities to act. That's a longer conversation, and I hope one of our upcoming sessions, Jesse, will talk very tangibly about what that looks like. What are the institutions and structures? What are the organizations? We understood them to be the church and our schools, our public meetings of various kinds in the mid-20th century. What are they today? Are they on social media? Are they still in our churches and with our churches, represented by our churches? Are they our social clubs, our fraternities, and sororities? What are those institutions where we deliberate, decide, and act upon our best interests? We need a conversation about that.
I absolutely agree. And in this moment, Johnny, I am thinking about the greatness of Frederick Douglass. I mean, in my lifetime, I was 3 years old when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. But because of the way in which he related to Lincoln, the way in which he articulated the case of our people, the fact that he lived through the 3 Reconstruction Amendments, the fact that we are even debating the Reconstruction Amendments, and the loudest voice on behalf of our people during that period was Frederick Douglass, self-educated, former slave, one of the world's greatest orators in the English language. That if Frederick Douglass had not articulated what the problem was and helped move Lincoln to an even broader understanding of the consequences of the peculiar institution of slavery, we might not have gotten to a Frederick Douglass type leader until Martin Luther King in the 1950s. So slavery would have continued for quite a longer period of time, not because we were arguing for a piece of legislation, but we needed a bridge in the Constitution that even our opposition could no longer cross. They can't get past the 13th Amendment. It stops them in their tracks. The 14th Amendment, it's debated. It took a major blow last week, but they had to discuss it. It stops them in their tracks. The 15th Amendment, it took another hit in Robinson versus Calais. But there's only so far they can go because of the way in which he conducted that struggle. It allowed Rosa Parks to sit down and have a legal basis to say, I can ride on this bus. That's the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. And Dr. King can come to her rescue and say it's time to implement the 14th Amendment. And the court can shape it with Brown versus the Board of Education under the leadership of Thurgood Marshall and the Clark studies and all of those cases that came together in the former Brown versus the Board of Education that laid the foundation for the American with Disabilities Act, the LGBTQ, the Civil Rights Movement, and everything else that came forward after that. And that is because in his time and space, Frederick Douglass strengthened our constitutional value, and he fought for it in a way that the future cannot go past his thinking. It just can't get past it because it's there.
Yeah.
With that said, Johnny, I thank you for sharpening the pencil on all of our thinking. Look forward to supporting you at the worldhouseproject.org. That's www.theworldhouseproject.org or www.thejohnnymackgroup.com. Johnny, a word of hope.
A word of hope. Well, I'm looking for one, Jesse. And I have to admit that today I don't have that word except the word itself. I hope in hope itself. I hold on to the idea that hope springs eternal. And I hope that each and every one of us will grab hold of that idea and will never let go of hope. It's all we have.
Johnny, keep up the fight. I love you very much, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Thank you, Jesse. Mutual.
Look forward to seeing you next week. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward right here at KBLA. Don't touch that dial. Don't shut down that app. DL Hughley is up next. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber.